Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. I have from Colorado in Boulder, where there currently isn't any snow. I have the wonderful Liz Pittoni. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Oh, thanks, Bee. Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. And it's Monday afternoon in Boulder, I'm pretty
It
sure.
is Monday afternoon in
Yeah.
Boulder, and it is Tuesday morning in Melbourne.
Yeah, so you're in the past, I'm in the present, and I'm in the future,
Yeah.
but we're currently in the present. You're talking about your no snow. I'm talking about winter here in summer. It's like, what is going on in this world? There's so much that we're going to unpack in this conversation
Yes.
today. So Liz, I'm really thrilled to have you on the show because like I said to you just pre-show, when I saw your business, your company's name, Spotted Elephant, I was like, oh, this is going to be a great conversation.
Mm.
Just because one, I love elephants, but and I checked out your website. You're the founder of Spotted Elephant Consulting, where you have a people first approach, and essentially you help leaders surface the elephant in the room. And we always talk about this elephant in the room, don't we? And I can just imagine you surfacing it and calling it out when it needs to be called out. And it's about realigning people, process, and productivity. And you've got 20 plus years experience across New York City, Bermuda, Denver, and you've previously built and led an enterprise PMO before founding Spotted Elephant post-COVID in 2024 to focus on culture, retention, onboarding, and team operating rhythms. The other thing I wanted to say is when you booked in for the pod and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life, leadership, and or business, you said when we remember that people are not machines, they're human, everything changes. When we see people as people, we unlock potential, belonging, and performance. That's why I founded Spotted Elephant.
Mhm.
Tell us about your journey.
Oh, well, I mean, we only have what, a little under an hour. Um, I have found in my experience that when you talk to people and really understand what motivates them and how the work aligns to their values, and how their values then can be elevated to align to the bigger picture of the organization or the team. You have this energy flow, for lack of a better term, that people just feel so connected to the impact that they're making on an individual level, and it helps them perform the best. It helps the team perform better. It helps leaders get the best of their people because their people are bringing their full authentic selves, which,
Mm,
if they don't have the right environment, they can't do that. So it's this constant conversation of how do I get to know you? How do I motivate you? How do you work in the best environment? Um, it might be hybrid, it might be in person, right? There's so many different ways of working now
yeah.
that we really need to understand how the person thrives first before we say, these are the rules that are of this team. You have to be in the office this number of days, da 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 da, these hours and these things, and eat this food and drink this coffee. It's like, but that might not work for that person.
No.
And so, how do you figure that out? Right? As a leader, it makes it much harder to have a more bespoke approach for every single person that reports to you. And by taking that time, over time, you will see the uptick in productivity
Yeah.
and efficiency and just more creativity. You just will. And right. And so that's kind of the idea behind it. And like learning to lead that way and really getting to know people at a deeper level, it takes time, right? So
Agree.
having that patience to really understand the wonderful talent you have in front of you.
Yeah, and seeing
Um,
in people too, as well, that wonderful talent. But the minute you put somebody down or you can block
mm,
that talent, you can block it and it becomes
mm,
very transactional and you can
yeah.
very quickly as a leader, and you would see this all the time, no doubt, that you can judge a book by it's always like, it's like the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. You can very quickly
Mhm.
judge talent by what you're seeing. And I've always like been this believer that like there's something underneath. So like so let's get that, let's pull that out. But you're not going to pull that out if you're a leader that, like you say, is setting all the rules and it's this way or the highway sort of thing.
Right. And it's having that self-reflection as a leader to say, wait a minute, I'm putting my own vision of how I would do this task, this process, this thing. Why don't I take that blinder off and allow, obviously with safety and concern of others at the forefront. And if I don't control the output, if I don't control all of it and let my teams figure out the solution from their vision, you're going to get a different solution. It might not be right in your brain, but it might be different and another solution. So you might get two for the price of one, right? Or three for the price of one. And isn't that better? Right? Or then you have an opportunity to discuss of why did you choose to go that path? Or tell me more about how you got there and
Mm,
leading with curiosity versus I need it to be. And yes, I mean, math is math, right? Two plus two will always be four, not five and a half.
yeah,
But how did you get to five and a half? That's so interesting. What happened along the way,
yeah,
right? And we were talking about before we joined, it's you hired this person. You put a job description. This was your ideal candidate that you hired.
mm,
How are you going to invest in that? Because by rehiring, let's say you decide to terminate this employee, you're starting all over. All of that time that you've invested in this person goes to zero. And
it's
you have to start all over again in that investment.
yeah,
So, how do you change that disenchanted vision of, well, they're not doing it quite like how I want it to be done, to how am I not seeing their potential? What am I not doing as a leader to get the best out of this person?
yeah.
Yeah.
It always
And
starts
it,
with a leader. I feel like it always starts with a leader, and it's always having to do the work on yourself first versus blaming everything else and looking at everything externally. Tell me, I want to take it back a second though. Like, how did you get into this? Like, what made you go, look, did you think, oh, there's a problem? Like, I need to solve
mm,
this? Like, what was it that, because obviously your previous experience and then
mhm,
coming in, what made you decide to start your own company, like you've built and led an enterprise PMO, were you seeing
mhm.
something that was frustrating you or like that you thought, I need to fix this? Like, what was it?
I think it's a combination of all of it, of being given the opportunity to create and lead an enterprise project management office gave me a blank slate of you've seen how PMOs have been run other places. How do you want to do it now? And
Mm,
there wasn't a lot of guidance, which can be seen as a pro and a con. And so I thought, well, let me just try it my way and see if it works, right? Start hiring with job descriptions that talk about all the good and put all the bad in there, right? Talk about it all up front in the job description of if you bring these traits, great. If you bring these traits, don't apply, right? And being very direct, but like let's call it out. Making the interviews fun and difficult because it's going to be this is how we're going to work in this environment.
mm,
And does that feel good? We're going to give you a taste of what it's like to be on the team. Um, Starting to get delegate, right? And knowing that I shouldn't have everyone report to me, which was learning that lesson very early on.
yeah,
Because then you can't lead people when you
no.
have you hit a saturation point and there aren't enough people. There's not
You're
enough
doing it
time.
all as well. You're trying to do it all as well as you're not
Yeah,
delegating,
yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
So learning what is a good thing to delegate and where you need to lean in and what are the right balance points. And you know what? Failing. I you don't get it right all the time, but learning from your mistakes and asking for help. And then over a number of years, 4 years doing that role, it was time to do something else. And so I stepped away from that and just took a couple months off And over that journey, I had a couple people come through my, like, I'll call it life network. You just keep meeting people who are saying, oh, I help women start their own businesses. I'm like, well, that's a super adulting move. I'm not ready to own my own company. I'm like, that's what adults do.
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, I think I'm going to do this job. Why are you doing that for them? You should do that for yourself. And you just have people reiterate that message over and over. Like, why are you saying that? And you're saying that. Maybe there's a signal I need to listen to. And
Yeah.
so, um, at the end of 2023, I said, okay, let's try it. What's the worst that happens? I launch it, nothing happens, and no one knows.
Yeah.
And here we are, right? At the end of 2025, and we're talking about my wonderful baby, spotted elephant. And yeah, it's phenomenal. I think to answer your original question of, how do you get started with something like this is making sure that I was very clear on why I was going to do this and having it aligned to my values first
Mm.
and making that a non-negotiable, like a five-step. It's like five steps of this is kind of the values of my organization that align to my personal values of why this company is in existence. And then it helps as I get business in to say, does this client negotiate any of these values? And you are never going to have a perfect fit,
I
right?
don't think you are though. Yeah.
Um, because there might be some things you need to flex. But if you're flexing on every point, then is it the right opportunity? And
Mm.
you have to make that decision. And so that's how I got started by just having clients that filled every one of my buckets. I was like, this is just a magical experience. And so it just the momentum built from there.
Wow. And so was that just from when you say the momentum built from there, was that from your network or did you actually actively have to go out and find a new network as well? I'm always intrigued by this.
It's a good question. It was actually just through conversation of my existing network where people would say, "Oh, I love that you're doing this on your own. I have someone you need to meet."
Mm.
Or I know someone who needs exactly this. You need to go help their team. And then my clients would refer me, and then it's all been through referral business.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it's very rewarding that way because it's a warm lead. You don't really have to start from zero. You're already brought in with a, hey, I know this person and you need
Yeah,
to meet them kind of thing.
absolutely. And tell me,
Hmm.
Spotted Elephant, because it's such a cool name and it's just like it's such a catchy name, like name as well. Where did that come from? Like, how did you, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know if you can see behind me. I have like a wall of elephant paraphernalia back there, and that's stuff that I've collected throughout
I've just
my
seen
life
I've
from
just noticed the one.
different
Yeah.
parts. Yeah, different pieces, parts. And there actually is a purple spotted elephant on the bottom
Oh, yes, I
um
can see it.
of there. Yeah. Just I found it in a thrift store walking
How
around
cool.
like Somerset, England, and I thought, oh, okay, well, this is
Mm,
interesting. So I knew elephant had to be part of the name. And then trying to figure out something that was both an adjective and an action word. And so spotted is a spotted elephant doesn't exist in nature. So it is unique and something that is bespoke to you, right? Could be in your imagination, it could be physical on my shelf, it could be anything, right? It's something that is unique and specific to you, a
mm,
spotted elephant, right? It is your challenge. And then to spot elephants is the action of finding this elephant, right? And so that is the action of what we come in and we help define and find, and then provide recommendations with a roadmap of how you can move through this elephant that we've found. So we come in, we'll identify through conversation and developing this one-on-one relationship to it's usually pages of recommendations, right? Then the question is like, where do you start? How do you know what's the starting point? And then that's a question, right? That's another conversation of, well, here are some quick things,
Yeah,
right? These are longer term investments. I'll give you an example of one. A client of mine, a small company, it has a younger generation, they're 20 to early 30s. And the way that this generation wants to be valued and seen is very different from, let's say, the 40 and 50-year-old generation, where,
so true.
yeah, 40s and 50s are like, take them to a wine bar, right? Let's do happy hours. The 20s and 30s are like, I would just like to have donuts on a random Tuesday. And so that was one of the recommendations. And the founder, he was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, they just want like bagel Fridays." He's like, I had no idea." I said, "I know, but they all said it, so it's definitely really important."
It's so
Things
different,
like that.
isn't it? Like, because there's five generations in like in the workforce right now, and it's like,
Mhm,
and like there's a decrease in alcohol intake these days with the younger generations versus the older generations, and so
mhm,
yeah, it is basically reestablishing and understanding what suits the different generations in terms of, well, what they see as a ritual, because a Friday ritual or a Thursday ritual would have been happy hour. We used to call it stumps back in the day. But it's so now different, isn't it? Like in terms of you're talking about donuts and bagels, or they want to go to do a Pilates class, or they want to do this. But it's very different to how, like, when I was kind of, in the thick of it all, and it was very much around, yeah, end of week drinks or like that sort
mhm,
of thing. It's just, it's those little things that I like to call rituals. Tell me,
mhm,
what do you see at the
mhm,
moment as the biggest challenges and opportunities that you're seeing
mhm,
in business, and what from, I guess, threefold, from a leadership and a team and a business perspective.
mhm. Okay. The challenges it's so interesting that I find that every founder and small team, even within a larger company, they're all like, my team is unique. Yes. And all your challenges are exactly the same, right? It's the challenge of how do I, as a leader, become self-reflective, to be open to getting feedback and then taking the feedback and actioning it.
Yeah.
So I would say that's one of the biggest challenges I've found is we do all this work, we come back with this very lengthy group of recommendations. And the challenge I find is leaders will either say, yeah, 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 we'll get to it. We're just really busy.
Yes.
And it becomes shelfware, right? And so to me, that doesn't align with one of my values, which is to leave this footprint. I don't want to leave the footprint and have it get washed away. I want
I
the
agree.
footprint to be used and imprinted, and what are we doing with it every quarter, every
Yeah.
year to reestablish this connection and continue to make this team like humming, right? And so, one of the products that I'm starting this year is for existing clients to have some sort of a retention check-in with them to say, I'm going to be your accountability buddy. We did this roadmap. Do we need to reconfigure things? How's that working? What's going on with that? Let's talk through some of the recommendations. Did they work? Did they not? If they didn't, why not? And starting to figure out how do we make it into, call it a project or a roadmap of success for this team. So it kind of forces teams to be accountable to the investment they made, right?
Yeah.
And so
And
that's been the biggest challenge of like for me, like let's do this. Like let's get in here and get into the hard stuff and fix stuff. Like let's add bagel Fridays and just do it, right? Or we all identified we need to hire this half-time person. So who wrote the job description? Who hired the person? Who's interviewing them? Where's the person sitting? Let's do it.
It's
right?
it's busyness, doesn't it? It's business gets in the way constantly. And it's like business for
Mhm.
the sake of busy. Like I just kind of go, this stuff is fundamentally so important to move the leader, the team, or the business forward. And yet it's also like that pattern recognition, if you ask me. Like it's like
Mm.
how do you create those pattern interrupts so that if they lose sight of what you've implemented and what you're recommending from the roadmap, they
Yeah.
don't fall back into their old patterns. It's that it is that need to have that accountability because just
Right.
the constant busyness. I think there's just so much distraction in the world at this point in time.
Mm.
You know, you can be on 24/7 tech. Like it's 7:30 in the morning here, and I've just looked at my phone earlier and I'm like, already got all these voice messages, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is sacred time, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
refusing to look at them because I'm just like, whoa, like
Yeah.
that's just a little bit wild at like who 6:30 voicing about work. Like I mean there's that as well. Like I think there's just this yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm trying to say there, but it's just
It's this very intense shift of the more time I put in, the more output I will get. And I think that's the biggest challenge to shift to your point of like, if you slow down, you will speed up by doing this investment because you won't actually lose people
no.
because you're going to not grind them basically out the door. You're
Yeah.
going to understand how they thrive and what types of things make them thrive. And you're going to pause and realign the whole book of work to give you, B, something more that's going to align with your value
Mm,
proposition,
mm,
more things that really are going to make you thrive and things you can take off your plate because that person is better suited to do that work. But if you don't take that pause, you don't know what that is, right? And
yeah.
so that's where, just getting in the grind mode doesn't actually make you more productive. It just gives you more grind.
And it actually just adds to the load, I think, if you ask me. It adds to the cognitive
Hmm.
load. It doesn't subtract.
Yeah,
And I think that
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's like that tennis match kind of, to your point. I could go in and look at all of my voicemails and text messages, but then you got to respond to all of them. And then they're going to respond back to you because that's how it works, the back and forth. And so, what would happen if you just didn't respond today, right? It would probably, you'd feel not well in wherever you keep your stress, in your throat, in your chest, in your stomach. You'd get to it. I'm not saying you wouldn't do it. And for things that are urgent, obviously respond to. But what if it was just a day? You said, I'm gonna just answer five because that's all I have time for. And then I took time to take a walk or have that cup of coffee you were gonna make this morning. And then did the next five,
yeah.
right? Just shifted the energy a little bit. Just see what happens, right?
And
Maybe
nothing
make sure,
and nothing falls apart. Like I learned that lesson years ago. Like, what if you just didn't respond? Because I was always like, I have to respond, I have to respond. It was like this manic
right?
like behavior. And my coach at
Yeah.
the time was like, take the monkey off your back. And
Yeah.
generally he'd notice the behavior of the other person or like just they'd get more frustrated. But like the your answers always come in the pause as well, I think. Like the insights drop down, the intuition kicks in because you're giving
Hmm.
us your energy shifts. You're not like you're like, oh, I actually can breathe now. I can make some decisions. And I find this the most interesting piece when it comes to leadership and businesses when you talk about slowing down to speed up. I can't
Hmm.
slow down. Do you know how many things I've got on the go? It's like, yeah, I do. I actually do.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I know from even my own experience, when you actually slow down and when you actually stop, that's when you get the better result.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not doing work for the sake of doing work. It's prioritizing your top things. And so one of the exercises we do with teams is to say, okay, put your big rocks in there. I
Mm.
mean, you've probably seen the
Yeah.
professor, I forget where he's from, right? And he says, we're going to put big rocks in. And it's like, is the jar full? And everyone says no. And then you put little rocks in. Is the jar full? No. And then you put sand in. And it's like, is the jar full? No. And then you put water in. Is the jar full? And the answer is yes, right? You get to that point, and some people will say
Mm.
no, but you can do the same with your workload, right? What are your big rocks? What are the non-negotiables you have to do throughout your week? You write that down. And then you give it a score of how much time it takes per week. Then you add your little rocks. Those are the things that you really want to get done. They move the needle. They're maybe long, they're small parts of a longer goal. Okay. And then we're going to put our sand in, which is filler. I call that email, right? And so, and then there's the water, right? The stuff that you probably need to get done. You maybe save it to the end of the day, um, things of that nature. Maybe it's admin work. But there's things that fall out of those four buckets because of time, because of other things. And if you actually catalog all the work that you do on a daily to weekly basis and then put the amount of time, you will be oversubscribed. Always,
Yeah.
right? And so if let's say you have a 40-hour work week, let's just make it up for sake of fun. When you do this exercise and you tally it, it's probably double, right? So if you're saying I want to work for 40 hours, it will probably come out to be more like a 60 to 80 hour calculation. And what that shows is you are busier than you're giving yourself credit to for. And what are you going to do with your to don'ts? These are the things that you do not have enough time to do. So are you delegating them? Are you crossing them off? Or are you
Defer.
reprioritizing your work
Yeah.
to get them in? Are they important enough that something above needs to shift?
Yeah, it's so true. It's like it's so important. I mean, for me, it's that
Yeah.
subtractive psychology piece as well, right? It's
Mhm.
just absolutely required. I have two last questions for you, and I've
Yeah.
just lost already that first question that I was going to ask you
Mhm.
in terms of actually, it's back to you. You know, you're working with all these people, you're spotting elephants, you're working with all these businesses. As an
Mm.
entrepreneur, there's times where it's 24/7 for us in terms of you've always got something that you've got to do, fix. You're wearing multiple hats. I don't know if you have a team or not, but like there's always various things on the go. How do you sense check yourself? How do you make sure that if we go back to the big rocks and the little rocks analogy, if you've got like quite a few projects on the go at the one time and like how do you make sure, and you've got a family obviously, how do you
Mm.
make sure you prioritize the big rocks for you as well?
Mm. It's a lesson and you don't get it right every time,
No.
right? And so making the mistake, but making it once to me. It's kind of like that old saying of like what no, what is it? It's like no stupid question, no dumb questions, just stupid questions or so. It's kind of like don't actually ask the question. My feeling is it's like make the mistake, right? But then learn from the mistake. Don't do it again. That
Yeah.
seems silly. And so I definitely miscalculated early part of this year of client work, um, too much client work at the same time. And so my big rocks, my little rocks, my sand, my water was flying out of my container. I had way too many hours of work and not enough sleeping, family time. It was way out of balance. And so I said, okay, you got 3 weeks to get it back into control. And I did. It's like you're going to have to figure out how to rebalance this and what does success look like? Okay, let's try this shift. Okay, not enough. Shift it again and then got it into the right rhythm. And so I think to me, it's, trying things and see. And if
Test
it
and
works,
learn.
great. Yeah, and try it. What's the worst that happens? Okay,
Agree.
you're working 100 hours a week. Don't do that again. That was horrible. That's not my jam, right?
Yeah, it's so true.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it is, and I think it's like that handbrake comes on, and you're like, hang on a second, this isn't working the right. And then
mhm.
last question, what would be one piece of advice you would give? I want to ask it around the elephant, the spotting the elephant, and maybe you can think of it. But I guess it's just what would be one piece of advice when it comes to a leader in terms of surfacing the elephant in the room? What would be the advice you would give them in terms of how do they surface it?
Mm. Well, I think you sometimes need fresh eyes, right? Because you have seen your team through a lens of a lot of times disenchantedness, right? Of we've been working together 7 years, 10 years, we do the grind, we do the thing, and we get great results. And sometimes it takes a second set of eyes that's outside the grind to help you see it,
Objective.
right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. So asking for help is the biggest step into being a better leader. And yeah, I think that that's
We
that's
need to do
really
more
it.
of that. Yeah. We need to ask more
Yeah,
for
there's
help.
just ask for help or ask, even phone a friend of like, what am I missing here, right? Of and it doesn't need to be me necessarily, of just this is what I'm seeing and this is where I'm stuck and this is what I want, but I don't know how to get there. Right?
Yeah.
Leaders of teams have that vision, that strategy. That's why they're in a leadership position most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? And so if they're feeling this stuck point of why are we not, you know, why are we not feeling infused with energy? And why does the team not want to have lunch together? And why are we going home at 5? Like, why is everyone starting to punch the clock a lot more? Something's missing, right? And there's something
Energetically too.
changing. Yeah.
Mm.
So noticing those signs as a leader is really important, that you're feeling this shift on the team. And that's the time to start investing in your people
I
and
agree.
really understanding
It's all about the
what
people, isn't it? Liz, how do we
100%.
find out more about you? How do we find out more about your business?
Ooh. Well, there's a couple ways you can get a hold of me. You can find me on LinkedIn. So Liz Pittoni. Spotted Elephant also has its own LinkedIn page and also have a web page. We have a web page, www.spottedelephantconsulting.com. Those would probably be the best ways. And then there's a contact us page within our website.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much, Liz. I'm really hoping that you have a wonderful end to the year. You just come off the back of Thanksgiving, and gosh, we've got what, how many weeks to go before Christmas now?
We're in
And
the days.
hoping that snow kicks in and the summer weather kicks in here too. Like it's just a but it's so important, like kind of summarizing back up too in terms of the need for the people first approach more than ever in this crazy world we're living in. And there's endless opportunity with, there's AI and there's HI, there's human intelligence and there's AI as well. And I think just to bringing the two together and never forgetting that it's a people first approach is super important. So thank you so much for your time, Liz. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks, B. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thanks. You
Thank you.
too.